Hi, friends. This is Adam Shoemaker, Rector here at St. Stephen's Episcopal Church in downtown Charleston, back for another edition of Rector's Corner after a summer hiatus. Thank you for joining us. I'm so very happy to have with me today the Reverend Canon Ryan Currie, who is a recent hire of our diocese, and his title is Canon for Common Mission. And we're going to learn a little bit about what that means. Thank you so very much, Ryan, for taking the time to join us today. And I wonder, Ryan, if you could just begin by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your ordained life and what you've done in the church prior to this diocesan position.
Sure thing. Thanks, Adam. It's good to see you, and glad to be here, and hope to meet some of the folks from St. Stephen's soon as I transition to living in Charleston. So a little bit about my background. I grew up in Mobile, Alabama, in the Diocese of the Central Gulf Coast. Although not really a church goer in my younger days, both my parents came from very religious households, and I think they felt the need to step back a little bit. So I came into the church through music. I grew up taking piano lessons, and eventually my piano teacher said, if you wanted to take some organ lessons, you could always find work as a substitute organ player on Sundays. So I began doing that, and my organ teacher told me, look, if you're going to do anything with the organ, you have to understand how a church choir works. And so he had me join the choir. So when I got to Sewanee as an undergrad, I went to Sewanee and was there for 9 years. I had failure to launch syndrome, sort of. I joined the undergraduate choir there, which sings in chapel every Sunday, and that was my first long-term exposure to the Episcopal Church. I quickly felt at home, and by the end of my freshman year of college, I think was the first time that I said to my parents, I think ordination might be for me. So we'll skip forward a few years. After graduating, I worked for the university in a few different roles, including one that's kind of similar to this one I'm taking on with the diocese, in the university president's office. So I did that for a couple of years while I was doing my personal discernment about my vocation, and then went through the official discernment process with the Central Gulf Coast, and entered the seminary at Sewanee. 3 years later, I graduated with an MDiv and came away with my now husband, Richard Culbertson. We got together then and went to Minnesota for a while, where Richard has been in grad school in classics. So we were there for a couple of years. I was hoping for a more kind of permanent position up there, but really I found myself sort of bouncing around from church to church a little bit, serving that year as a deacon in a few different congregations, and then was ordained priest there in Minnesota. Not long after that, though, we came to the Lowcountry. Richard is from Georgetown, and it just so happened that Holy Cross Faith Memorial in Pawleys Island was looking for an associate rector at that point. So the timing was perfect. It's one of those things I tell people that, this clearly seemed to be part of the big plan. God took this one and said, okay, let's make this work. So I started there as associate rector in 2018, summer of 2018, and left there earlier this summer for this new role with the diocese.
Well, and can you tell us, Ryan, a little bit about your new role and what this title that you've been given means in practice?
Sure. So Canon for Common Mission, what that title means to me, what I think it communicates, or what I hope it communicates, is that with so much going on in our diocese, so many different programs and initiatives, so many different churches and parishioners, there's a need to keep us grounded and focused in our shared mission, our common mission, if you will. which I see as fundamentally, getting back to loving God and loving our neighbor, being faithful followers of Jesus in this time and in this place. So I'm still discerning, I think, some of the pieces of this role, what that looks like. I mean, I think most of the viewers here will know that, the diocese has had some real ups and downs lately, right? I mean, we've been through this interesting period. Luckily, I'm confident that I'm joining the diocese at a real upswing moment. I mean, it's a very exciting time for our diocese, but I think that gives this role a little bit of urgency, that with so much going on, so much transition and movement and energy, there is the necessity, I think, to keep us sort of grounded and focused.
Mm-hmm. There is a lot of flux, obviously, happening in our diocesan life right now. There are new staff people arriving in our diocesan offices, and I'm sure you all are still working out somewhat how those pieces will fit together. But of course, as you mentioned, we now have returning congregations, and I sort of wonder how you might imagine helping find common ground as we navigate our way as a growing diocese with these new congregations coming back, or returning congregations coming back in the fold.
Yeah, that's a piece of this role that I have not really engaged yet, partially because of this. There's still so many logistical questions with each of these parishes. I mean, they all have their own unique situation and needs, and some of those right now are they're nitty-gritty questions of finance and property and things like that other members of the diocesan staff and certainly our bishop have taken the lead on for now. But eventually, my role with the returning congregations is to continually make sure that the folks in the pews and their clergy feel supported by the diocese. I'll help some with the kind of strategic thinking piece about where we're going to really need to lean in as a diocesan structure, and other places where we can sort of see that things are going smoothly enough, things are really working well, and so we can kind of maybe lean back and watch what God will do in those places. Probably mostly I'll be working with the clergy in those congregations as they come into the congregations, making them feel connected to the diocese. For example, one of the things that I'm currently putting together is a Thriving in Ministry cohort group, where clergy in these returning congregations will have the ability to gather with a couple of clergy mentors trained in this Thriving in Ministry program, so that they have that space to share their experiences, to learn from one another, to process things together. So that's one of the things that I'll be doing with the returning congregations.
And that support, I think, is going to be so important for the clergy and for the congregations in any diocese, particularly the further you get away from the diocesan offices. It's so important to make sure that those congregations feel supported and feel connected with what is happening. And in South Carolina, I think it's so important for us to feel truly like we are sharing a common mission as we move forward from this place. So it seems like your role is very timely. You mentioned working with clergy. I wonder, for those listening in, how you might imagine interfacing in practice with congregations, and how people in congregations across the diocese might see you or interface with you as your role evolves.
Sure. One of the other pieces of this role is kind of overseeing a lot of the different gatherings that take place in the diocese. In fact, at one point, we were considering that word gathering being part of the job title. So what that really means is that I'll be taking the lead on sort of building relationships and networks within our diocese. Some examples: diocesan convention. So, I'll see people who get involved in the different committees and structures and initiatives of the diocese, certainly. With congregations, I've already started doing some supply work, which I will continue to do, serving congregations that need a substitute priest on Sunday when the rector is away or whatever. And I've already found, that when I go and do that, people have questions for us. They want to know, well, what's the diocese sort of doing on this? What are we working on? So in a way, I'll be sort of representing the diocese to congregations that I visit. I'll be working with the deans of our regional deaneries to build up relationships on that level as well. We hope to have some gatherings for lay leaders in our deaneries as well. Some formation like for vestry members, wardens. And then the other thing that I think about this question is some of this is up to you, right? To the folks in your pews. This is where y'all come in. There are all sorts of gatherings and programs that we could help put together for congregations, or that congregations could host. So, send me some ideas if you've got something that you've been thinking of. I'll be available for worship on Sundays to preach or teach. I love teaching. I love Christian education. It's one of the central parts of who I am as a priest. So, some of this is up to y'all.
Terrific. And as you transition, Ryan, into this new role, I wonder, this is very different than being a priest in a parish.
Yeah.
I wonder, what you're most looking forward to as you transition into this new position.
I was just talking about how central formation and Christian education and the teaching piece is to my personal sense of vocation. The other piece that I realized as a parish priest is that I really was fed by the administrative stuff. I think a lot of clergy probably don't have that feeling. Sometimes I think in the parish, the administrative stuff, it sort of has to get done. You have to do it, but it's not why most of us have gotten into the biz, so to speak. That's not really the first thing that when you say, oh, you want to be a priest, that's usually not high on the list. But I've found myself really enjoying the work of building up good institutions, good administrations, so that other folks, other people who are involved in those institutions feel like they have a place of belonging, in a place where they're supported, in a place where they can thrive in their own ministries and in their own leadership. So I really enjoy that chance to sort of work at that administrative, more strategic level. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And I also hope that in doing some of this work on Sundays, that I can still feed that part of me that wants to be there in worship with people. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, I once heard it said that good administration is good pastoral care. Sometimes those administrative roles, you're right, are not things that a lot of clergy relish, but doing those well, build up institutions, help build up communities, help create, solid communities that are able to really disciple people in the faith. So really appreciate what you have described your role as being, and look forward to seeing how that evolves. I'm grateful that you said yes to stepping into this role, and certainly our prayers will be with you. And
Thank you.
congratulations on your marriage.
That's right. It's about 2 weeks old. It's brand new, but we're really enjoying this so far, and look forward to the next chapter of life when we actually get to move to Charleston. That's coming up soon, sometime this fall.
Well, we'll look forward to welcoming you. You have a lot of transition going on in your life right
It's been a busy season, but all good things.
Yeah. Well, thank you so very much, Ryan, and thank you to those who have been listening in. I'll be back next month with another edition of Rector's Corner. In the meantime, friends, be safe, be well, and you keep the faith. Take care.
Peace.